Whoa! I was running a refuge and I was recording it, but I wasn't planning to include it in anything because I figured you guys don't need to see me run any more anomalies that I've already run. But this is something new. This is an escalation. Our scanner has picked up a transmission originating from a nearby system. It would be wise to investigate this mysterious signal further. Expedition. Where is it? 7 jumps away in Lisbatan. Our first 3 of 10 DED. Think we can do it? We're gonna find out. This is an episode all by itself. This is Bill. Bill wants to build a Cynabal and join the Angel Cartel cause in Zarzak, but he's not making it easy on himself. Okay, Eve gate check shows clear flying from Manar to Lisbatan, so Thomas is on the way to this DED site. DED sites, like this Serpentis Narcotics Warehouse we've uncovered, are combat complexes in space, similar in some ways to the anomalies we've been running, but they have acceleration gates, so usually multiple room sort of dungeons, basically, in an RPG sense. And what's unique about them as compared to anomalies is that these anomalies, while they have a small chance, as we've seen, of spawning a faction NPC at the end of them, every single DED site is going to have 1 or more faction NPCs that are guaranteed spawns within it. Usually ships, although sometimes there's an NPC structure that's tagged as a commander, and so you're not guaranteed to get faction modules necessarily, but you're guaranteed to get a chance to roll on that table, which could get you faction modules. Or in DED sites specifically, you can also get deadspace modules, which are usually a tier above the faction modules as well. So I don't want to get our hopes up too much, but running a DED site like the Serpentis Narcotics Warehouse is really increasing our odds of getting something that will be of value to us. The faction and deadspace mods that drop from these sites are so valuable to new players because of how much they're worth in terms of ISK on the market. Obviously, we can't make use of that, but we can just put them on our ships. And given that T2 modules are essentially out of reach for us unless we can get them from a PvP kill, basically, running these sites, getting these faction spawns, and hopefully looting something good for the wreck is going to be the best way for us to get higher tier mods that are T2 equivalent or better for ships like Thomas, for ships like Carmela, and just opening up our capabilities so much. Now, these DED sites can also be found through exploration. They do spawn in systems all over the place, from high sec down through null, and different tiers of sites, different difficulty levels, will spawn in different areas of space. So with scan probes, when you see an unknown signature in system, if you scan it down with probes, there's always a chance that it's going to be a DED combat complex. The thing with those is that if you found one that way, there's always the risk of someone else having found the same one. We didn't find this DED complex with probes. We got a specific tip from a piece of information that we found in an anomaly. The anomaly escalated, as people say in the game. And when you get a DED site as an escalation, you're the only one who has access to that location. So we know that no one can have run the site before we get there, for example. Functionally, the site doesn't exist until we show up in system and warp to it. Of course, once we warp to it, we could be found with combat scanner probes, right? So when we're in the site, the only way someone could warp to us is if they've combat probed us, which means we are going to need to be careful. We're going to need to be careful about refreshing DScan constantly. The second we see combat scanner probes, we want to get out of there, because if they scan us, even if they don't warp to us immediately, they will then have a bookmark and they could come in and either finish our site or catch us when we return. Not every anomaly can escalate to a DED site, I don't think. But a bunch of them can. The chances are pretty low. I've heard the number 1 in 13 bandied around, although I think it's actually different depending on different anomalies. I do feel like with the number of anomalies we've run, we've actually had worse than average luck in that this is our first escalation. But I'm not complaining. I'm excited to have the opportunity now. The DED 3 out of 10 is one that can be escalated from anomalies in low sec, obviously, as happened to us, but also in high sec. So this is a site that people who are playing in high sec can get access to in high sec. It's also a site that people running anomalies in high sec can get an escalation to, but have that escalation be in low sec. And I know it's the case for a lot of players who operate mainly in high, that when they get an escalation like this one that's sending them into low, that's really intimidating. I'm hoping that this video might inspire some players to realize that it's actually not that intimidating. I mean, if we die on the other side of this gate, then I guess that mission's failed. But really, you can run these sites in a pretty cheap fit. Fitting out a thorax with what Thomas has on him is not a very expensive proposition, so the risk that you're undertaking by bringing a T1 fit cruiser into low sec to run a DED 3 out of 10 is actually pretty low, and the rewards can be substantial. So I really hope that anyone who's watching this who might get an escalation into low sec from high sec will realize that even if you lose your ship trying to run it, it's worth trying. This dead space complex was built by the Serpentis Corporation to protect and store narcotic and military supplies for their members. The complex also acts as a temporary storage area for the corporation's traffic of illicit substances. While the entrance check-in sectors of the complex are not known to be heavily guarded, certain sections house experienced security staff using cruiser crafts manufactured and funded by the Serpentis Corporation's income from illegal activity. DED threat assessment unsafe 3 out of 10. The DED sites do go from 1 out of 10 all the way up to 10 out of 10. So this is one of the lower tier sites, but it's sort of at the upper range of what's considered to be the low sites. This should be quite straightforward in a thorax. Reasonably, this site probably could be run by a destroyer like Carmela. With railguns, the blaster fit on Carmela would have difficulty here. There we go. So you can see here already here, the supply traffic management has a different icon. That is a commander structure, so we're going to be sure to blow that up before we leave this pocket. And we have 2 different acceleration gates. The entrance pocket of this complex contains light peripheral security around the Advent-ware storages. 2 acceleration gates give way to 2 different routes inside the complex, one leading to the check-in tunnel, and the other to the more heavily defended security corridor. Visitors are cleared by security at the traffic management office, allowing members of the Serpentis Corporation access to the check-in tunnel. So I guess we'll probably go for the check-in tunnel. Let's start blapping these guys. That's good. We're gonna go for a sort of manual vector, sort of over and above them. There's a lot of them. But that's not really a problem for us. We need to pull some range on this guy. We should probably launch our drones. You'll see it's actually not that different from running an anomaly. There's a lot more going on in space. The terrain of the site is a little more heavily designed. Got more of a story to it. But really, we're going to run several pockets here, and each pocket is going to feel a fair bit like an anomaly. Likely to be multiple waves. We might see some elite frigates. But basically, these guys will all fall pretty fast under our drones and railgun. I don't see anything here that's going to give Thomas a hard time. Especially since operating from this range, I don't think any of them have done even a point of damage to us yet. Oh no, our shields have taken 19 damage up to now. We're getting sensor damped, which would be a problem if we're in Carmela, but Thomas has quite a bit more locking range, and given that we're trying to fight these guys at about 20 mostly. The center dampening doesn't really bother us that much. One of our drones has taken a tiny tick of shield damage. I think that's it. Now I gotta blow up the supply traffic warehouse. Now, because this is marked as being a commander structure, it should always drop a cargo container as though it were a wreck. I don't think any of these guys, these NPCs we killed, were faction in any particular way. Faction or commander. I think in this pocket it's just the supply traffic management, which potentially contains good loot for us. We will check out what's in these minor supply containers, but I have a feeling it'll be something like T1 ammo, possibly salvage. Yeah, the structure dropped a cargo container. Let's see what it's got for us. Oh, so these overseer effects, the commander NPCs and commander structures in these sites drop these little like lock boxes, which are just sold to Concord NPCs. So in fact, we can sell this, and we will. The 180,000 ISK for this Overseer's personal effects is essentially another bounty for us. So that's useful. And there's the key that will let us take the gate to the less well-defended of the two pockets. We want to check out the minor supply cache as well. Oh, Warrior 1, I guess I'll take it. That's a bit of a surprising cache. And 100 Scourge light missiles. I might as well loot these guys in Thomas. We're not going to come back here with everyone else to loot. I think that it'll just be pretty regular modules in these guys. If we see an NPC with a unique name, something that's other than like the Corelli, oh, well, that was worthwhile, worth looting. Yeah, the NPCs in these DED sites that have unique names, things like security captain or whatnot, those are the guys who will drop the dead space effects and potentially the faction or dead space loot. The rest of the guys will just draw from pretty much the same standard loot table as the Serpentis NPCs that we're killing in belts. But we have not yet progressed so far that something like another 5MN micro-warp drive, it's not without value to us, especially as we're still in the progress of fitting up our 13 catalysts and whelping them all one by one into faction warfare space. An extra 5MN micro-warp drive is something that we will not say no to. The check-in tunnel contains warehouses and storages for equipment and drugs. Ready for categorization and registration. Incoming vessels are required to check in at the staff quarters. Oh, we'll check in at the staff quarters. The limiting factor in how fast we clear this with Thomas seems to pretty much come down to how fast we can lock these guys. We're one-shotting them, most of them. Oh, that little sliver of health, making us use 2 cycles on you. We have to fly in a little bit. Oh, even at this range, even deep in fall off, we're getting big alpha strikes on these frigates. Alright, that's everything. Guess we'll check out the ammunition storage. Oh yeah, we have to check in at the staff quarters. Check-in complete. I don't know why they even bother putting in all of these little, like, cargo containers with, like, one standard S in it. I mean, we're so dependent on loot in this run, so much more so than anyone else is in this game, practically ever. And even for us, flying 10,000 meters across the site to pick up a single crystal of standard S is a bit of a kick in the teeth. It doesn't even make sense. Why do they have like 1 unit of ammo for every different racial gun type? There is a carrier and an explorer in system now. It's a little surprising. A carrier certainly can't come in here. The central pocket of the complex houses the drug refinery, narcotics storage, and military supply warehouses. The headmaster of the drug refinery must clear all visitors before allowing entry to the acceleration gate towards the administration sector. Oh, here we go. So some of these guys have actual names. Oh no, these are guns. Those are guns. This one guy has an actual name. So he's the guy we're going to want to be sure to loot. They're laid out in a bit of a like weird formation right now. It looks like a stick person. You see what I'm seeing? Okay, we're still not scared of any of this. Pretty satisfying. I think one of our drones is getting shot though. Yeah, our drones are being shot. It's funny that I was like in the like glamour shot mode and I was like, wait a second. Some of those shots from those NPCs are not coming towards us. And I'm pretty sure they're not shooting each other. So again, as you can see, Thomas the Thorax with his meta railguns, meta shield extender is really over-equipped for this site. Not a single thing here has even really threatened to scratch him. I feel pretty confident saying that a railgun catalyst or railgun cormorant would have found this to be a walk in the park as well. Thomas will do it slightly faster, which is advantageous because we want to get out of here. We want to get it done as quickly as possible. But if you've picked up a escalation to a low sec 3 out of 10, and you're feeling that even risking a T1 cruiser might be outside of your comfort zone, just bring a cormorant, bring a thrasher, bring a rail catalyst. I think that you'll have no problem with it at all. I think this might be the last pocket coming up. It's taken us about 20 minutes so far this site, and most of that is because of me yapping and not paying enough attention to my buttons. I feel like if I was doing this with a focus on time efficiency, we probably could have cleared this whole site in 10 minutes. All right. There's no gate here, because this is the last pocket. And there's a whole big Serpentis station there with a whole lot of bad guys, including a Serpentis supply stronghold. And I saw at least one Serpentis supply station supervisor. Okay. Well, one at a time. The Serpentis supply stronghold is a smoking wreckage, and its administrators are dead, cloned, or on the run. There is now little left in the area except the quiet ruins of past criminal activity. Well, aren't we heroes? Now, where is the loot? Pirelli A-type multi-spectrum coating. Okay. Maybe we can use that. It's worth 220 million ISK. It must be good. 220 million ISK. Not for us. Maybe we'll put this 220 million ISK Pirelli A-type multi-spectrum coating on Carmella instead of the damage control. I'm sure we can find a ship if we do ever build an armor thorax later on. This will be a perfect thing for it. doesn't really make sense on the shield version of Thomas we have here today. But if you're running anomalies in HiSec and you get yourself a Serpentis Warehouse escalation, if you're selling things to market, this 220 million-isk module for that relatively straightforward site we just ran, it is worth your time. How many T1 destroyers would you have to lose to gate camps trying to run this site before you were taking a loss on a 220 million-isk reward? Ask yourself that. Status update. Our bounty ticks have come in. We earned almost 1 million ISK in bounties from that site. We picked up 4 million ISK-ish in overseer effects, bringing the total ISK windfall of that DED3 site that we traveled halfway across Galente Losec to run to a whopping 5 million ISK. Not exactly life-changing money. This Pitfall Compact Warp Disruption Field Generator is of course extremely welcome. The real prize of the site was this Corelli A-type multispectrum coating, which upon further reflection we have very little use for. I spent a little bit of time with Pyfa just now looking at the possibility of an armor refit for Thomas, and it is unappealing. In order to get our armor tank, even with this obviously quite good and coveted module, up on par with the tank we currently have with our hodgepodge shield fit, we'd have to put on so many capacitor mods and also so many low mods dedicated to the armor tank itself that our DPS would end up being reduced substantially. So the shield fit for us right now just seems to be straight up better. I would love to be able to say, look at this 220 million ISK module that we looted, it's going to change the whole run. It's really not. If we swap out Carmela's damage control for this Corelli A-type multi-spec, we get about a 10% armor rep boost. So we'll probably do that. We'll probably put this A-type multi-spec coating on a catalyst, a PvE catalyst that otherwise is worth about 4 million ISK. That seems like the right course of action. We're going to keep running these sites, of course. If we got something like a prop mod from that site or any number of other modules, we would have a lot more use for them, and the chance of that is worth the 10 to 15 minutes that blitzing that site would take. We're also going to keep in mind that based on how easy, trivially easy that site was for us, once we start actually exploring 410s, maybe 510s, I think that Thomas might be able to handle a lot further up the combat signature difficulty chain than I had previously expected. So we're going to keep our eyes out. Just flying back from Lisbatan to Minar. Probably will only use this recording if I get killed. Well, this is bad luck. This is the end of Thomas, I think. Can't see how this possibly works out for me. There's no escaping this that I can see. I'm going to try and burn back to the gate. But they'd have to be really off the ball to let me do it. Sorry, Thomas. It was nice knowing you. And that 220 million ISK Corelli A-type. We hardly knew ye. We hardly knew ye. Well, that's a good end to the episode. I like that. Now to figure out what's next. For the record, these guys were complete gentlemen in chat afterwards. They even offered to send me ISK to replace my ship, which of course I had to decline. Nothing but respect to no forks given. Well played. I'm sorry the A-type didn't drop for you.